Hello everyone, welcome to Daily Devotions with Pastor Peter. We are in Genesis chapter 50, which will wrap up Genesis' journey. And so this is what Genesis chapter 50 says. Joseph threw himself on his father and wept, and he kissed him. Then Joseph told the physicians who served him to embalm his father's body, so Jacob was embalmed. The embalming process took the usual 40 days, and the Egyptians mourned his death for 70 days. When the period of mourning was over, Joseph approached Pharaoh's advisors and said, "Please do me this favor and speak to Pharaoh on my behalf. Tell him that my father made me swear an oath. He said to me, 'Listen, I am about to die, and take my body back to the land of Canaan and bury me in the tomb I prepared for myself. So please allow me to go and bury my father. After his burial, I will return without delay.' Pharaoh agreed to Joseph's request. 'Go and bury your father as he made you promise,' he said. So Joseph went up to bury his father. He was accompanied by all of Pharaoh's officials and all of the senior members of Pharaoh's household and all the senior officers of Egypt. Joseph also took his entire household and his brothers and their household, but they left their little children and flock and herds in the land of Goshen. A great number of chariots and charioteers accompanied Joseph. When they arrived at the threshing floor of Atad near the Jordan River, they held a very great and solemn memorial service, with a 7-day period of mourning for Joseph's father. The local residents, the Canaanites, watched them mourning at the threshing floor of Atad. Then they renamed that place, which is near the Jordan, Abel Mizraim, for they said, "This is a place of deep mourning for these Egyptians." So Jacob's sons did as he commanded them. They carried his body to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave in the field of Machpelah, near Mamre. This is the cave that Abraham had bought as a permanent burial site from Ephron the Hittite. After burying Joseph, Joseph returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had accompanied him to his father's burial. But now that their father was dead, Joseph's brother became fearful. "Now Joseph will show his anger and pay us back for all the wrong we did to him," they said. So they sent this message to Joseph. "Before your father died, he instructed us to say to you, 'Please forgive your brothers for the great wrong they did to you, for their sin in treating you so cruelly. So we, the servants of the God of your father, beg you to forgive our sins.' When Joseph received the message, he broke down and wept. Then his brother came and threw themselves down before Joseph. 'Look, we are your slaves,' they said. But Joseph replied, 'Don't be afraid of me. Am I God that I can punish you? You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. No, don't be afraid. I will continue to take care of you and your children.' So he reassured them by speaking kindly to them. So Joseph and his brothers and their families continued to live in Egypt. Joseph lived to the age of 110. He lived to see 3 generations of his descendants of his sons Ephraim, and he lived to see the birth of the children of Manasseh's son Machir, whom he claimed as his own. 'Soon I will die,' Joseph told his brothers, 'but God will surely come to help you and lead you out of this land of Egypt. He will bring you back to the land he solemnly promised to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob.' Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear an oath, and he said, 'When God comes to help you and lead you back, you must take my bones with you.' So Joseph died at the age of 110. The Egyptians embalmed him, and his body was placed in a coffin in Egypt." And that wraps up Genesis chapter 50 and the whole book of Genesis. This was the end. The people are now in Egypt, and if we go into Exodus as our next book, it goes on from there, where the people are now in Egypt, and they are needing to escape, to leave. A few good things that we see here. Joseph was such a well-respected person. He also respected his father to the point where the officials of Pharaoh came out and they mourned, to the point where the Canaanites changed the name of that place to, wow, this is a place of mourning for the Egyptians. It probably was a pretty big mourning session, like crying and saying goodbye, and it was probably pretty intense. And that's something we need to learn here too. One, that we need to respect our elders and care for those who have gone before us. Joseph did a great job in mourning for his father. He told Pharaoh, hey, through his officials, I need to go. Pharaoh said yes. Joseph promised to come back. They needed Joseph and probably the Israelites there because they took care of the flock. Pharaoh's flock, believe it or not, they took care of everything there. But when he came back, his brothers were afraid. And Joseph had a forgiving spirit. And I think this is so critical for those of us who call ourselves believers. We need to forgive. We need to move on. And here's the reality. When we don't forgive, is that when we don't forgive, we give power to those who have hurt us. If Joseph didn't forgive his brothers, that means Joseph's brothers has power over Joseph. And Joseph is a person who rules over all of Egypt. And if that's the case, if his brothers still have power over him, that means his brothers have power over Egypt, logically speaking. And see, there's things in our lives that happen, and they happen for a reason. We need to look at that as ways that God has taught us lessons, teaching us lessons, and continue to teach us as life goes on. But if we hold those over our heads and never let go, we rob ourselves of the joy that is here and now and the possibility that will come in the future. We're never set free. I don't know how many of you are holding on to different things in your lives where you're not forgiving of certain things, where you can't fully let go and trust in God. And that's where it comes down to. When we don't trust in God, we are living in sin because we don't have faith in Him. No faith equals sin. Sin equals no faith. How can we have faith if we have sin? And just because someone has hurt us or has destroyed something for us, in the same way Joseph was destroyed, God brought him out with the blessings that he can't even count on his hands, now being the governor of all of Egypt. God forgave. God moved on. God allowed it to happen. Accept it. And so as we see here, Joseph was fully done with it. He let go. He didn't hold anything back. And that's how we need to be. As people who get in conflict with each other, it happens. It happens at church. It happens in our homes. It happens in our relationships. The thing that we need to do is forgive, forget, and move on. We count the blessings, not the disasters that happen in our life, because we attribute those as things that God has given us. My friends, it's a tough lesson to learn, but if we learn anything from the story of Joseph, we see that he is truly a man who has God's heart, and truly a man who understood forgiveness. Alrighty, we are done with Genesis 50. Plan for a week break before we jump into the next book. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing next. Still thinking, still praying. Part of me wants to go into Exodus to continue the story and God's faithfulness. At the same time, I do want to jump around in other books of the Bible as well too. So we'll see. Stick around as we continue on with Daily Devotions with Pastor Peter. Take care, everyone. See you in the next series. Bye-bye.